It's incredibly confusing especially if you're an American wine drinker and you're not fluent in German. Hey, welcome back to Drinking It In. As you can see from this uniquely shaped Riesling bottle, today we're talking about one of my favorite but misunderstood categories in the wine world, German Riesling. So German Riesling is crisp and it's complex and it's delicious and age-worthy, but let's be honest, it's incredibly confusing especially if you're an American wine drinker and you're not fluent in German. Trying to decode one of these labels it's quite a puzzle to solve. You know, why hasn't German Riesling caught on like it deserves to? Well, let's get into it. So German Rieslings are some of the most expressive white wines in the world, and you can get everything from a bone-dry wine with minerality to lush sweetness. They often have amazing aromatics and high acidity to support aging. I mean, some of these wines can age for 40 years. Sommeliers love it. Wine critics tend to rave about it, but the average American consumer, not sold. Not sold at all. Riesling still has the perception that it's a sweet wine and that folks may not like, right? If somebody doesn't want a sweet wine, they want a regular wine, a dry wine. And let's talk about the labels. This is where things really start to fall apart. I mean, German wine labels can look like a foreign language. I mean, I guess technically they are. This one is a Pierce Porter Gold Tropfen Riesling Cabernet from Gunther Steinmart. You've also got terms like Trocken and Spotlese and Grossgewachs and Auslese, none of which tell a new drinker whether the wine is dry or sweet, lush, fruity, or crisp. So when you compare that to some of the other white wine labels that are out there, something from Chile, a California Chardonnay label, something from Washington. It's easy to understand, it's not intimidating, and it's direct. And that simplicity tends to win over casual drinkers. So, like I was saying earlier, like the German Rieslings, they ask you to decode an entire vocabulary before you even pop the cork. But let's talk about that sweetness that I mentioned. Americans often associate Riesling with something that is sugary and sweet, but many of the German Rieslings have very little residual sugar and are simply regular dry wines. I could use the term bone dry again, but I hate that term for some reason. I mean, I hate the fact that we call regular wines dry wines also, but enough with my own mental troubles. It's just not always obvious from the label like what you're going to get in the bottle, and that increases the risk that when you buy a bottle, you may not have a wine to your liking. And while I always say that wine is a treasure hunt, you do want the wine that you buy to be somewhat close to your expectations. So this disconnect, leads to someone starting their Riesling journey and buying a Spotlese, expecting a dry wine, and they get something sweet, and that'll just result in a person who kind of avoids Riesling altogether, assuming it's all sweet when it's not. The German classification as you can see, Deutsche Produktwein. It has different levels, right? Cabernet, Spotlese, Auslese, and it was designed to indicate ripeness, not necessarily sweetness. And now there's a newer classifications within the VDP system. Grosses Gradwachs, Erst Lag. This is basically an attempt at a vineyard hierarchy that's layered on top of the old system. I think what they're trying to do here is emulate Burgundy and create that sort of specificity around wines from certain vineyards and certain places, but it gets too much for casual drinkers. And I'm obsessed with this stuff, but it overwhelms me too. I am doing some studying because I ultimately will be victorious here, but that's ultimately. I'm not there yet. So my conclusion, right? I guess in the end, here's the hard truth, right? German Riesling is never going to be truly mainstream in the U.S. It's not because it's not delicious, right? It is, but because the branding, the communication, it's just too complicated for how modern wine drinkers are making buying decisions. It's a wine for collectors and wine geeks and explorers, but not for everyday drinkers. That's okay. It's okay for me, right? It's going to keep prices relatively low. It's going to allow us to stock our cellars with a lot of delicious Riesling that can age forever. And, if you do take the time to learn the system, it's going to be incredibly rewarding. It's a big ask. And, we're in a world of simple instant gratification, and Riesling's complexity, is going to continue to be a roadblock. I want to know from you guys. I'd love to know your thoughts. Like, what do you think of Riesling? Have you ever been thrown off by a German wine label? Or do you love trying to solve the puzzle and have had a lot of success? Let me know in the comments. If you want a quick crash course on how to decode German Riesling, the labels on German Riesling, I've got a video that's going to come out on that soon. So you should subscribe, like, and maybe even hit that bell, so when that video does come out, you'll be ready for it. Don't forget to share this video with some of your wine-loving friends as well. And but I appreciate you joining. I appreciate all the love, and I hope you're having a lovely early spring. And I'll talk to you soon.